Welcome to Channel X TV. Delighted to be reporting from the delivery conference today and joined by Matthew Trattles. Welcome, VP of Product at ShipStation. So, hi Matthew, how are you today?
I'm doing well, thanks for having me.
So, for those that don't know you, tell us a little bit about who you are, how you ended up at ShipStation, and what's happening at the delivery conference today.
Yeah, so I've been with the business for just gone 10 years. I originally was part of Packlink, which was then acquired by Auctane 4 or 5 years ago.
So I remember Packlink fondly from my eBay days.
Yeah.
Producing my eBay labels.
That's right, yeah. We still work with eBay. So yeah, responsible now for our product delivery across our European SMB products. So that includes Packlink, it includes ShipStation, ShipStation API.
And ShipStation API is the interesting one. That's the one for platforms, so that they can do things. For instance, like if you're a marketplace, you could take a payment from a seller and split it for the customer delivery and maybe your own fees as well.
Correct. Yeah. So that's a big part of the reason we built ShipStation API is to remove that friction for marketplaces. So basically that they can drive standardization rather than it being kind of Wild West and every seller doing whatever they want. Which can lead to unpredictable buyer experiences and therefore downstream consequences of low repeat rates and so on. We make it a harmonious process for all sellers, which then knocks on into a smoother buyer experience.
And talking harmonious processes, there's so much going on in the world today with different tariffs being introduced, often at short notice from the US at the moment. De minimis is going away in various countries. The US is gone or going. The UK is going to go. The EU is going to go, but a couple of countries like Italy and Romania have moved a bit faster and done their own thing and introduced charges. How's this working with ShipStation? How do you keep track of it all, first of all? And what do you think the impact on the delivery landscape is going to be for the retailers watching this?
Well, first of all, I think it's our core business, right? It's literally what we do. So keeping on top of all of the changes is a priority for us. In terms of how that affects retailers and so on, I think it's unrealistic for retailers, each individual retailers, to have to keep on top of every change. So I think if anything, that kind of accentuates the need to have a specialist platform. For example, ShipStation API, in order to have that confidence that we've done the homework, we know what's going to pass, what isn't going to pass, what extra process you need to follow, and so on. And we're seeing that good response from sellers and from customers in terms of the adaptation to these new processes when they come in.
I think brands and retailers, they know they have to deal with the stuff that they really don't want to. And if I can just say, I'm in the UK, it's going to, I don't know, America, this is the product type or the HS code or whatever, tell me what I've got to pay. But it is just brilliant. But how do Auctane and ShipStation think about streamlining the process and change implementation? How long does it take when President Trump stands up and says, we're going to have new tariffs on the EU or on the UK, something about Greenland, 10% on everyone. How long does it take you to catch up, and how do you keep on top of it all?
Well, in terms of how we keep on top of it, I mean, we have a department within the business that is interfacing with the carriers directly. We also, of course, have a legal and compliance team. So between those, they are at the head of the curve, let's say, ahead of the curve in terms of what changes are coming and what needs to be done to adapt to those. And then in terms of kind of how long we take to adapt to that, have a day or two.
Wow.
So because you don't have any choice, right? So it's all hands to the pump when these things happen, because we have to protect the sender, the recipient. There's knock-on effects all the way down, right? So if we don't get ahead of it, everybody suffers, and we can't have that, right? So we do basically whatever it takes in order to adapt to the changes, so that our customers have the confidence, not only on that occasion, but on all future occasions, that we're not going to lead them down the garden path and at the 11th hour we say, actually, there's a problem, we should have asked you for this, that, and the other.
And it's something I've not sold professionally for over a decade, but I remember the days of manually writing out a CN22 and slapping it along with the postage label.
Good old days.
How far have we got with automation? Have we really got to the stage where I can print a packing slip for the order and have all the customer's documentation I need for that particular order for that destination just automatically print?
So it depends really. What I'm going to avoid is any absolutes in the answer because of the change we've just discussed. So I think once bitten twice shy on being definitive on these things. What I would say is, as we stand at the moment, automation has come an awfully long way, and of course the introduction and the adoption of AI is making that easier. One example that I would give, we work across all the major countries in Europe, and it sounds kind of simple, but the customs processes are dominated by the English language, and until now that's been a friction for sellers in Italy or Spain, France, to ensure that they've got the right codes, that the descriptions are correct, and so on. So AI is helping make that clearly much easier to be accurate with those codes, so that the passage of these parcels is smoother.
And talking of AI, how do Auctane and ShipStation think about AI? How are you using it today, and what are you hoping it will do in the future?
Well, the whole ethos of Auctane is to make life simpler, make the processes shorter and more user-friendly. So AI, let's say, is our friend in doing that. It can help simplify even further these processes, make sure that there are fewer errors, for example, we just mentioned, in terms of the different sort of language benefits that would give. So in general, really excited about it, but in a pragmatic way. I think one thing we observe, I think not only us, is that there's a lot of talk about
There's
AI.
a lot of hype about it. It's going to do everything.
It's going to do everything, right? And it may well, right? But I think what we want to avoid is kind of too much AI talk without actual demonstrable benefit day to day. And so our aim is, AI is great as long as it provides value in making processes simpler, reducing errors, and basically streamlining the workflows for our customers. So it has to be pragmatically implemented.
And looking ahead, we're still quite early on in 2026. What's exciting you about delivery for this year? What can we expect to see? And I know it's been the same for 20 years. A courier comes and picks up a parcel and delivers it somewhere else. I know there's so much more to it than that behind the scenes.
Yes, I think some things will follow their kind of natural evolution. So one of the things that I was talking about earlier is last mile preferences. And I think what we're seeing increasingly is that, depending on the buyer and depending on where they live, those last mile preferences are not necessarily the same as they were 5 or 10 years ago. And that evolution we expect to continue. And there being more specificity in terms of, no, I want this or I want that. And I think that's one of the challenges for sellers, is to basically keep up with that demand.
I think that's really interesting, because personally, I never use lockers. And honestly, the reason is I work from home. Why would I'm always at home when the delivery is coming. But on days today, when I'm here at the delivery conference, I really don't want a delivery today. And in fact, I've just, while you were on stage this morning, I'm afraid I was on my phone. I'm placing an eBay order because I know now I'm going to be at home for the next 2 days. I didn't place it yesterday just in case it turned up today.
Yeah, and I think that this is something that you mentioned working from home, and I think that has driven a certain behaviour, obviously since the pandemic, whereby that kind of, let's call it anxiety, it's probably too strong, but that kind of concern about will I be in, that kind of vanished, right, during that period.
And then it came back.
Yeah, exactly. So as habits change, not everybody, but as large portions of the workforce go back to the office, I think that attitude is now changing again to one of, well, I don't really want the hassle of a missed parcel and then. So let's look at kind of how do I prevent that. And I think lockers is something that we see very distinct trends across the different European countries. So there's some markets, for example, France and Poland, whereby lockers are the preference generally, right? And depends on the country and the specifics of that country. I do believe that sooner or later we will get to some sort of convergence, and
I'm convinced it's countries that maybe don't have quite so good postal service, where they used to go in to pick up their post, then go into a locker is just a natural progression.
I think it's probably more to do with the types of buildings that people live in, right? And I can't remember
apartments and flats.
I think it was Mary Portis was saying in the session today that I think her son in New York, and there was a doorman and so on and so forth. And if you've got a doorman, then great, right? You don't have that concern.
If only we all lived on Park Avenue.
Exactly, yeah. The reality is most of us don't, right? So if you are living in a block of flats or what have you, I think it's not difficult to see where the convenience of lockers and so on would be appealing.
So it's that real mix of the last mile, whether it be lockers or time deliveries or parcel shops, or how are you going to get your parcel?
Exactly.
And just stepping back from that, that's what the customer wants. As a retailer, I don't want to know anything about that. Is this something that Auctane or ShipStation can just do everything magically from our website and make the options available? And how many carriers, or I was speaking to Gopher earlier, could I integrate them with MetaPack? How does it all tie together?
Well, if you weren't placing eBay orders, you would know the answer to this already. But over 200 with the API, over 200 carriers out of the box, and that carrier library is expanding all the time. So the whole kind of, let's say, the whole reason that our API exists is to remove that friction or that effort for retailers, right? They don't have to constantly think about, well, what's the next carrier I need? What do people now prefer? What kind of last mile preferences do I need to cater to? The whole point is you don't have to worry about that. We are on top of that, so we have all of the services, the ones that are kind of growing, the ones that are kind of in vogue for that particular market or segment. So that really is the whole point, right? That you can spin up whichever of these kind of carriers and services you want. And because we've got pre-negotiated rates, you don't have to worry about kind of contracting, you don't have to worry about SLA agreements and all this kind of stuff. You don't have to worry about minimum thresholds of volume. You can just, test these things, play.
So effectively, I can add on services without needing to negotiate a contract.
Exactly.
Find out if my customers are actually going to use it.
And if they do, great. And you may then end up saying, well, this has become substantial enough that I do want to kind of organise my own contract. Equally, it might not take off for your customers for whatever reason, and you haven't lost anything, right? You've tried and it hasn't worked.
So for those that want to find out more, how do they get hold of you? How do they get in touch with ShipStation?
Well, obviously, ShipStation.com for kind of any of the basic kind of product features and overviews. But we also have teams of specialists that if you fill out the form when you register for the product, that they'll give you a call, assess kind of what the specifics are of your business and guide you in terms of the best solution.
So ShipStation.com. And then you, according to your needs, you'll find the right solution.
Exactly. As long as you let us know who you are, then we can get in touch with you, no problem.
Matthew, thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome. Thanks.